So in this Advent Calendar show, Russ is going to talk about a Sylvaneth army and seeing if he can make them competitive.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, I will caveat this. So on one of our videos, we had a comment from Wolfbite and saying about his playing a lot of Daughters of Cain against Snake specifically, and all the new stuff they've just got, and struggling a lot with the movement of those units with the run and charge and the double move and things like that, and the damage. I'll caveat this. Sylvaneth are in a bit of a bad spot at the moment. I think they are. You have to play out your skin, I think, to do well with them. I think they're a tough army. I think they're a great army if you want to learn the game. I think they're a great army because they're going to punish you if you get things wrong. So definitely think it's a challenge. Let's put it that way. So, but if you want to play Sylvaneth, I still think there's some good lists. Now, I've got 2 lists today. Got a bonus list. The first one is kind of an all-rounder. It'll do all right. It's got a bit of everything. It's focused around some combat damage and Alpha Strike charges.
Dreadwood, yeah?
No. So it's Harvestboon. And the reason it's Harvestboon is purely... Let me just get my book.
Yeah, so while Russ is getting his book, I'll just say this is going to be... I'm going to get a lot wrong in this because I played a lot of Sylvaneth, but so not with the current book.
So different.
Yeah, it's the old book. I played, I think it was 98 games with the old book.
It's almost a completely different army now, and I think that's why so many of the old Sylvaneth players moved away from them. So Harvestboon gives you a couple of things. You get Vibrant Surge, reroll hit rolls of 1 made by friendly Harvestboon units that made a charge. So
cool.
Reroll 1s on a charge. You get a command ability which allows you to pick a Harvestboon unit wholly within 12 of a hero. I'm going to get this wrong all through the video.
Harvestboon.
Yes. And then you can add 1 to their attacks of their melee weapons. So it's a +1 attack command ability. So
does that combo with the Arch-Revenant guy?
Which is
good.
why I've got the Revenant as well. So basically this army is all about the big unit of hunters with Greatswords being buffed up with +2 attacks with +5 to charge, teleporting, going in and doing their work.
So there'll be like 6 attacks a piece, right? Doing more
Yeah. Okay. There are a couple of variants you could do on the list. So you could drop. I'll talk about that at the end. But there is a way to get reroll to wound as well, which
that's handy.
So it depends what you want to do. But I think there's a starting point, and the reason I'll talk about why I've got this configuration because I think it's better for scenario play. So you also get a command trait, which is Seek New Fruit. So when the general attacks with its melee weapons, it can make a 6-inch move after all of its attacks, and it must finish its move more than 3 from enemy units. Now, this is really good on Durthu because you've got the Stomp that makes them go last. So if someone charges you and you're like, that's bad, I'm going to lose Durthu, you stomp them, you hit them, you pull out of combat, they can't hit you.
Yeah, hope you get the 4+.
Yeah, so it's a very good, and it's also good on a double, because if you're in combat and you hit something, then you pull out and you know you're going next. Even if they have their go and they charge you, you can then move and charge what you want. So you almost get Durthu becomes a very, very good way of doing that. So I think that's pretty cool. Now I'm assuming he's not a unique character. So
he never used to be. He used to be able to take multiples.
No. I would double check that because no, he's not unique. Thank God for that. That would have been silly.
First at a moment, be like, well, actually, it's
exactly.
Not that.
And
if we get something wrong, let us know. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
Then also we've got the Artifact of Power, which is +1 attack to a melee weapon, so you might as well just give it to his big sword. So Durthu is a utility piece character. He's good in combat. That makes him a little bit more survivable and a little bit more tricksy. So I quite like the Harvestboon. Reroll 1s on the charge is good if you want to be aggressive. And that's all your whole army. And so that's basically that bit. And then obviously we talked about the command ability in the Arch-Revenant. So the idea is the hunters can go in and they can use their they're +2 attacks. So hunters.
Did you put this in there? I'm just checking to see the list. Did you?
Yeah, I've put it in the WhatsApp. Yeah, so you should have it. So
apologies. So I'm looking now. Yeah.
no, it's fine. So the Arch-Revenant. So he's got this ability. Obviously, like you reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Kurnoth Hunters where they're holding within 12. So obviously, like it kind of doubles up the ability because you get that with if you charge. But it's nice if you don't charge and it for multiple rounds. And obviously, you've got the you can pick one friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 9, or within 12 of this model, and they get +1 attack to their attacks characteristic. And because Kurnoth Hunters count as being within range for command abilities.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah, okay.
Because they've got the envoys of the Everqueen, so
that's it, yeah.
You don't need to actually be near them.
They just they're like nodes, aren't they? That's
yeah. So they're like a node, so you can actually do it from anywhere. You don't need to be in range. It removes that. Oh, I got a measure. Am I holding within? Yeah. So you could even parrot the Dryads, and the Hunters can do it, and they can also act as like a node. So you get the other command ability as well. So you can double pop it. If they're alive, if that guy's alive, you can basically double pop it. If you've got 2 command points, there's +2 attacks. The good thing about the swords, obviously, you get to do if you wound roll is a 6, you inflict a mortal wound. Now, the reason that's really good is obviously it gets through armor, and obviously if you're rolling lots of dice, you've got 6 attacks, 6 models, 6 attacks. It's 36. Freeze and freeze. Reroll 1s to hit. Now they run 1 damage too, which is cool. I'll talk about the variant in a minute, but anyway. The other thing that you could do with this unit, and the idea is you need to get into combat, right? So the Sylvaneth stuff in the past used to be able to like do a lot of movement and be quite close to you. Now, not so much. So there's an element of magic with this. So I've got a Treelord Ancient. You have to forgive that there's no spells or anything on the list. A Drycha and a Branchwraith. Now, the reason they're in this, they're all casters. The Branchwraith allows you to summon Dryads, and it's just for 80 points. It is an absolute bargain. I think it's in every Sylvaneth list. Spell wise, you probably want to take like Regrowth, the one that puts the model back in the unit and things like that. So you can choose whatever spells you want, but just try and keep your stuff alive. Drycha, I think, is really good. I think
she got a buff, didn't she? From memory, like from when we play tested it, I definitely remember her being getting a buff.
I like the fact that she's like a little bit better than an ancient in terms of combat and stuff, and she's still a wizard. And one thing
I used to rate Drycha.
Yeah, I love the model as well. Like, and one of the things that's really good is she's got a 3-up save, 10 wounds, which is great. But she's got the flitter flies, which are 18-inch range. So you can have 20 attacks on those, which are 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage 1. So actually, like that's quite a good shooting attack. Let's be honest. That's a lot of dice. You'll do a lot of damage with that. You can snipe stuff. So I actually quite like the shooting element. And in combat, she's got if she's unhurt, she's got 6 attacks, 4s, 3s, rend 2, damage 2. But you can also got the Squirmlings, which are 3s, 4s, no rend 1 damage. But you can double that to 20 attacks as well. She's got quite an interesting spell, which is on a 6, and then you roll 2d6 every enemy unit within 10 with a bravery characteristic lower than that roll suffers d3 mortal wounds. So you can roll for each unit d3 based on that spell. So it's quite nice because if you play against low bravery armies, so she's kind of in the middle of a bunker of Dryads or whatever, and there's multiple units, you can, especially like stuff like Idenef and other things that aren't high bravery.
Well, even Luminef haven't got great bravery, and stuff.
Ironically, it's the order units that suffer the most from that. But even like Big War and stuff like that, it's fairly good. And she's just solid. I like her. I mean, you could swap her out for another Durthu. You could swap her out for another Ancient. You could drop her out and put more Hunters in. She's optional. She's not a requirement really. But I just like the model. I want to use it.
You've got quite a few. Like Durthu's relatively. I know in this age of mortal wounds and stuff, it's going to be difficult to keep your heroes alive. But you've got quite a lot of solid heroes there to sit on objectives if you need to. With particularly with hero missions. I'm sure that there's lots of ways to kill them, but it's they're all 3-up saves pretty much.
Yeah.
Let's Drycha 3-up or 4-up.
3-up. Yeah, so 10 wounds are a free up. Treelord Ancient and Durthu, 12 wounds are a free up. So the Ancient's obviously got the Doom Tendril Staff, shoot attack, is what he is in combat. He's there purely because he's a caster, it allows you to put another Wildwood down, which is kind of important. So what I've got in this list, I've got 2 endless spells. Okay, so one is Chronomantic Cogs, and the other is the Spiteswarm Hive. Now these you can teleport units if you need to, but actually you don't necessarily need to. So if you want to get into combat with these stuff, so obviously Chronomantic Cogs allows you to do 2 things. One, you can slow down time, which allows you to reroll your armor saves on your Ancient or Drycha.
Yeah.
And also gives you an extra spell. So that immediately gives you loads more survivability in those 2 models. Drycha is particularly good in combat, and you get an extra cast. So that could be you could cast her War Scroll spell and the Lore spell, whatever, so it's decent. The Ancient, again, rerollable save if you want, but the other thing you can do with Cogs is give yourself +2 to charge and +2 to movement. So that means that if you do teleport your 9 away, suddenly you only need a 7 to charge. Now, the Spiteswarm does a similar thing. So the Spiteswarm Hive is on a 7 as well. So these aren't like auto cast by any shape of the imagination. They are. It's going to be a bit situational. So, but once this is on, it's set up within 15. The player sets it up. Basically, can pick one of the effects below and immediately resolve it. So one is Vital Venoms. So you roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 8. On a 2+, add 3 to its normal move and its charge moves. So if you've got both, that's +5 normal move and +5 to your charge. So
that's
you're suddenly able to move, not necessarily teleport. Your Spirit of Durthu, for example, would have a 10-inch move and a 2d6 +5 charge.
Yeah.
Which is quite quick. And your Hunters, again, the same. Obviously, if you teleported through the woods, you would actually be only needing a 4 to charge because you'd be 9 away. So it's not it's not automatic, but it's good as if you get this off. Because what's quite nice
you take a 4-inch charge every day of the week, right?
And what you can do as well is you can drop this and buff your units, and then you can teleport them through the woods and then charge. So it's like you don't need to be. The spell can be at the back.
Yeah, you power them up and then move them forward and stuff. Yeah.
And it does have another effect as well, which is shielding. So you roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 8. On a 2+, they reroll 1s on their saves. So it's like Mystic Shield Bubble. So if you don't need the distance because Cogs has gone off and you're not going to be teleporting, you could just move and charge. You can do that, and it's a Mystic Shield across most of your combat units. It doesn't sound a lot, but actually it adds up, right? It's going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's varying. It's all of these little things that make the difference, right? They just keep adding up. Particularly on your hunters, which are the things that you're going to want to keep alive. Because you looking at it from the other side of the table, you're like, kill the hunters, kill Durthu, then the teeth's gone from the army almost. So it's keeping those guys alive that are going to be the big thing.
Yeah, and that's why I think Harvestboon's good, because it makes the charge for the hunters more impactful. It gives you the ability. Durthu gets reroll 1s on the charge as well because he's still Harvestboon. And what it allows you to do as well is if he gets charged, he can stomp and back out. So you get a little bit of survivability. Now, this is the reason I've got a unit of 30 Dryads in the list. They are just a big chaff screen. And then 2 units of 5 Tree-Revenants purely because they are just great at just moving to where they need to be for the objectives.
They're my favourite unit in the Sylvaneth book. I used to play them a lot. Again, in this book now, just the fact that their War Scroll for 80 points, the fact that you can just teleport them around the table is brilliant. They are. I was looking at. I believe I was looking at taking them in an IDNF army as allies back in the day, just because their War Scroll stands alone as it is. It's really good.
Yeah, and I think this will reward patience, this army. So you want to wait. You want to get your woods up. You want to keep your Dryad screen. Make sure you get your endless spells up. Because you don't have a lot of command points. So you start the game with none. basically. So there's no formations in here. So one of the things you need, if you want to get +2 attacks, you need to do it on turn 2.
Yeah.
Now, one of the variants of this list is you drop the Dryads out and you put 3 units of Spiteswarm for 60 points each and the formation outcasts. That gives you another artifact and it gives you a command point. You do lose the 30 Dryad screen, which I think is quite important, but you do get 3 units of 5 guys. That will come in at exactly 1990, but you could then drop the Tree-Revenants because you don't necessarily need them, but I do think they're very good, so I would keep them.
It's bodies on objectives as well, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Whereas you lose. I mean, I know Dryads are relatively easy to kill, but there's still. I mean, those minuses within range of the Sylvaneth Wildwoods. I assume they've still got that. It does make a difference. I think for objective play, 30 Dryads is. They do die to a stiff breeze, but they are.
They do. I mean, you get a rule where you pick a piece of scenery and you become immune to battle shock near it, so that helps because you know roughly where they're going to be as your bunker. I think the outcast with the extra command point does allow you to take. There's an artifact which I'm just going to quickly look at now. I think it's called the Crown of Fell Bowers. So it says at the start. Sorry, go on.
If you got it there. Sorry, if you got it there in front of you, I was just going to film.
No, that's all right. It says, at the start of the combat phase, pick one enemy unit wholly within 6 of the bearer. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units that target the unit in that phase. So, you could potentially put that on Durthu and then swap the +1 attack sword onto wherever, it doesn't matter. Or you could have it on the Arch-Revenant and just make sure he can get near where they are. He's got a 12-inch move and he flies and he can still be buffed by all the things you've got there, so there's no reason why he couldn't get within 6. He doesn't have to be in combat, because 6 inches is outside of combat, so you could pick a unit and then get all those buffs. And if you're rerolling to wound, now what's important here, it doesn't say failed wound rolls, so your hunters do more wounds on a 6 to wound. If you were fishing for mortals, you could reroll everything that isn't a 6. And just really lean into trying to do more wounds. If you're playing against something that's particularly resilient in an armor save, then you could do that. And you're like, well, actually, that's better. That's better to do that.
Is it an additional in addition?
Yeah.
Is it a mortal wound in addition?
I think
so that's actually really good.
Yeah. So it's fishing for 6s, and then they still do damage anyway. But because it's a mortal wound in addition. So basically, I think that what you're effectively doing is you've got a big unit of hunters, which you could. I'm not sure you got the points because I think they're 190 each. I don't know if you could put up to a 9 if you drop the tree revs and change the Dryads out for the outcast battalion. But basically, and you could just drop Drycha. You could just say, well, actually, I'm not going to bother with Drycha. But the reason I like it, I just think that shooting attack is so good. I like having another wizard. I think that because you don't get the double casts anymore, you want as many casts as you can get. Yeah.
9's very unwieldy as well. Even when I run a 9 of scythes with it, and they had the extra reach. I found that they were very difficult to get all of them into combat, and they have like a 2-inch reach. I believe the swords have got a 1-inch reach, haven't they?
Yeah.
So even if you had a unit of 9, you're not gonna. You'd be very lucky to get all 9 into combat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more about keeping the unit effective for longer.
Yeah. It's.
Yeah, I mean, it is. They are what they are. I mean, I don't think it's the most effective army you could write. I think if you wanted to play a balanced, fun army, that's probably what I would be playing. Gives me a bit of combat, a bit of shooting from the heroes. It's got some magic in it. It's got some bodies. It's got some options. It's more my kind of all-rounder list.
Yeah.
Now, the other list I've got is what I would call probably the not very much fun variant to play if you're just worried about winning, particularly against a particular matchup. It's not, again, don't think it's the most effective list, but if you want to play Sylvaneth and you want to punish somebody who's pushing snakes at you every game, this might be a good option for you.
I think one of the things as well is that, like, obviously we're looking at this with no table time, and
No.
when you play an army, certain things slowly start to happen, and you go, right, well, on paper this looks like it's going to perform a certain way, but actually in the table it doesn't perform as well as you think it will, or it'll overperform, and then you start to sort of understand how something, on what you'd expect it to do in a given situation, and like, we're looking at this just from, I mean, I say I haven't even looked at it, as like you can tell by some of the questions I've been asking Russ, but this is essentially, would we, if Russ took this army and played it for 6 months, would he write this army list? I doubt you'd write this army list. I think it'd be something a bit different.
Yeah, you've got it's a base, and I think that once you
Yeah.
play games with an army, you'll tailor it to suit you.
Yeah.
Things will not gel. You need to give things a chance. It's actually, I did write a Sylvaneth list when I had the book out last year. When I was thinking about the ETC, and I was thinking this is going to be a good book. Obviously, it got delayed, but I was thinking maybe, and it was similar in places. So
Yeah.
this next army list that I've got is, like I say, it's a little bit. I don't know, it's not a sort of list I would want to play with, but if you wanted to do
the term
well,
I was going to
you'd upset
coin is
people.
wanky.
Yeah, it's a bit of a. It's not. I don't think it's good enough to be coined as like a really wanky list, because I don't think it's going to be that good. But if
The problem is
within
you
Sylvaneth,
suffer,
so
don't you?
yeah, I mean you just
You haven't
KO.
got the drops.
If you want an
Yeah,
army like this, you
it's-
take KO. But so it's basically, this is Heartwood. So the reason Heartwood, and it's only for one reason, and that is for. I've got to find it now. It's basically, you get a reroll to hit on your shooters. So
Oh, cool.
you get a Artifact of Power, Horn of the Consort. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by Heartwood, Kurnoth Hunters, wholly within 12. So
Okay.
it doesn't specify combat. So then you want your bows to be the most effective.
Yeah.
You take loads of hunters with bows, and then you realise that ballistas are better, and you can ally them in. So you take
more of those.
3 ballistas, because you can't get 4 anymore because they've gone up to 210 points. Then you've got to have 12 units, so you take loads of Spite-Revenants as your core with the Outcast Battalion, which allows you to have the extra, which I think is cut off the screen, but let me just scroll down. So you get the, I don't have the Outcast Battalion, I just dropped it. But you could do it, but I dropped it. So you just got 3 units of Spite-Revenants, 1 unit of Tree-Revenants, 4 units of Kurnoth Hunters with bows, 3 ballistas, and then you're literally just adding on top of that Drycha, because the shooting attack, having regrowth. You've got the Ancient as your general, who's got the Horn of the Concert, which allows you to do the rerolls. Taken Throne of Vines, so he can actually get +2 to cast, so he can drop woods a bit more easy if you want to. It could give him anything, could give him regrowth, doesn't really matter. Branchwraith allows you to summon Dryads. You probably put regrowth on the Ancient actually and keep, and because the Branchwraith is going to be casting the summon Dryad spell.
Yeah.
But effectively, you just shoot people, which is a bit dull. Use the Spite-Revenant to like block table if you're worried about getting alphaed. You just
block screen stuff, don't you? Like,
yeah. And what this does allow you to do is you can string all your bow hunters around, and then when it comes to your shooting phase, you can use a wood to teleport around to, or set them up off the table and bring them on.
And then bring them on. Yeah.
To actually get within your 12-inch of the Ancient for your rerolls. So basically, that's as simple as it is, really. You can also, you've got a command ability at the start of the combat phase. Pick an enemy unit within 12 of a Heartwood hero until the end of that phase. Reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. Which, to be honest, this Heartwood would go nicely with the other army that we just talked about. Slightly different.
Yeah, I think if you're playing the long game as well, again, it's one of those things. I was thinking about that when you said Throne of Vines with the pluses to cast. That's.
I mean, Throne is open to anyone.
Yeah. I was just sort of like thinking about it. Is you play that long turn, don't you? You get the +2 to cast. You don't
First
alpha,
turn.
you get it up.
Yeah.
You then wait until turn. Yeah.
Then it allows you to get cogs off, and then that's why. So you go like Throne. Then next turn is you've got your 2 command points. You've put your cogs down. You may if you've had 2 shots at getting Spiteswarm off, which you've probably got off by now, and then you're there. So I mean, it's not something I would play, but if you want to beat up a Daughters of Cain army, shoot all the heroes is the term, isn't it? So
yeah, it's. I used to like. I mean,
and hope
again,
they don't put
all of
Marathi
my
on the table.
no, all of my anecdotes are all like old Sylvaneth books, so they probably have no relevance here whatsoever. But I always found that 9. I used to run 3 units of 9, not 3 units of 9.
I was gonna say
3 units of 3 bow hunters.
yeah.
Drycha, and some other bits, and it was more about teleporting those guys around, providing a mobile fire base. Back when Drycha did something completely different, which is no relevance whatsoever. She used to be able to pick a big unit, didn't she? And go like, "Here's a unit. I'm embittered. I'm like enraged, and I'll squirmling you." Not. I used to take squirmlings, go into the range, and it'd be like everything within 9 inches on a 3-up takes some more wounds. So you just destroy big units with her. But no,
It's just a combat attack. So yeah, but you don't get
Yeah.
you get to choose whether you're embittened or enraged or whatever they are. But basically, one
you
gives
used to have to roll dice, didn't you?
yeah, one now you get basically it just gives you 20 attacks of your shoot attack or 20
Okay.
attacks of the crap melee attack. So you choose whichever one. So normally it's going to be the shoot attack because it's better.
Yeah.
And so for me, you just take Drychas in there. Again, like the model, like the shooting attack. I might play some games where I realise she's awful and swap her in for a Durthu in there. You know, it's just more bow hunters. But I think the hunters at 190 are particularly expensive. I'm not quite sure why they're that expensive, but they feel very expensive. I don't know why. But
And they never used to, did they? Remember when they were 220?
no. Yeah, and but I think now because there's so many cheaper, nasty things out there that I mean they're still good, but I think I mean this list is just shoot them because to make effective combat units it's quite hard I think, and it's easy to kill stuff without them being able to hit you, so you just take lots of guns, and the ballistas are great as allies. Like not much more to say about it really. It's nothing. It's pretty basic, but it does the job right. So
just a note to you: is it Wolfbite? You said, yeah. So, like, one of the things that I'd say is just like, obviously, you really love Sylvaneth because you're playing them still against your mate who's taking Daughters of Cain against you, and that's cool. It's like it's fine that you still love Sylvaneth. Usually, these things have a way of coming back around. Look at Caradon Overlords. Caradon Overlords seem to be winning every online event ever at the moment. And they had a spell where they were doing really, really well. And then they dipped off and no one took them. They weren't very good. And then then you didn't see them. And then all of a sudden they're good again. So, if you love Sylvaneth, get really good. Like, keep playing with them now and just use it as a way of going like, this is me learning the army and getting it spot on. So at some point, if like there's a points change in a future handbook, or like something changes or anything goes on, you already have a really like deep understanding of that army. So when or if they get a buff, you'll be able to use that your own way. Like, one of the things that whilst we are a competitive YouTube channel and podcast, and we're all competitive gamers, I always, and Russ will always, and Byron will always gravitate to the thing that they love. Yeah. So like, you'll never see me play a Death Army, not because they're not very good or anything like that. I just don't like that. Whilst I love the models and the aesthetic, the play style and everything about that doesn't appeal to me, because that's just not what I enjoy in the game. And the same with Russ does play every army, so it's a bad example to sort of like say you'd never see Russ play this, because Russ plays everything. But Terry, who's been on the podcast and stuff for a long time, but isn't like having a break or whatever at the moment. He plays Nurgle. You'd never see Terry take a Stormcast army, would you? Like, other than he did take Stormcast army and podium with it, But it's not his army.
No. But I think, like, for me, I don't tend to play shooting heavy armies. So
you don't combat, right?
I don't like very fragile, like that sort of Hallow Heart, Tom Maudsley negative sort of experience. I don't play armies like that. So this is why this list is not something I would play. Is it better than the other list? Probably. But I think you'll have games where it'll be better and games it'll be worse. the other list is what I would play, just because it's a bit of everything. It's got a combat power. It's got some movement shenanigans. It's a bit more interesting, for me, and that's just because I know who I am and what I like.
Yeah.
In terms of your mate and playing against daughters, I'd say that you're going to struggle because the matchup's bad. Like with especially with the snakes, because they got the mortal wound attack now.
And the volume of attacks and
I think you've just got to understand that and try and get as good as you can with it and accept that. And if it's a regular opponent, you don't play anywhere else, and it's getting a little bit dull, just have a conversation, because depends what we're talking about, like tournament gaming, going into like an environment where you don't know what you're going to play and you just got to accept that's the environment. If you're playing against your mate and he wants to use his cool snakes and stuff, then maybe you just agree that you have more points than he does, or that you have an ally you can't normally have. You can change the rules to make it more interesting. Like example is that a friend of mine, Graham, we used to play 40k. I played Necrons and he played Death Guard, and Death Guard couldn't have anything other than melter guns. They couldn't have any heavy weapons. They had assault, like your sort of normal assault or rapid fire ones. So melter gun was the best sort of armor penetration he had. So if I put a monolith on the table, because it ignored his 2d6 armor pen rule back in the old days, he couldn't touch it. So I just said, do you know what? Let's not put the monolith on the table. Or if we did, it was an objective and it was inert. And it was So I got the model on the table, but I didn't, because at the end of the day, you want to have fun. And so either think of a scenario that balances out a little bit, or come up with some house rules, or change your points that they have to you have, or and also I said to you, to give you a better understanding, or maybe your mate a better understanding, is swap round. So one of the events I used to do back in the old days, they used to do an army swap round, so you had to play with your opponent's army and they played with your army. And what that meant is if you took something really, really strong, you had to try and play against your own with a strong list. And what was really good about that, it would teach you the nuances of like what it will also your mate will understand where you are, like will understand the other side of that social contract, because at the end of the day, we talk about winning, losing, and competitive gaming. Like, we like to have that strategic challenge, but at the end of the day, it's not just about winning, it's about having fun, and it's not fun to have no chance, which is probably what we're saying. I'm not saying that's the case, but
Yeah. I do think, just to touch on what Russ said about swapping armies, is one of the things that you'll find as well is if you play with your opponent, if you do the army swap thing, and I think that's really good. It's good to know and play different armies, because then you'll be playing with the daughters and there'll be a situation that arises in the game that you go, oh wow, that really hurt me, that really caused me a lot of trouble with this daughter's army that I'm playing with. And then you need to think about that and go, right, so if that sort of really affected my game plan and destroyed a pivotal unit, or that situation really impacted what I was going to do as the daughters player, then how do I engineer all of those when I'm the Sylvaneth player? So if I'm tagging a unit of snakes on the corner, so I mitigate their reach, and I then go in with, let's say, Russ's Harvestboon list, and put all of those attacks through with the buffs up and wipe that unit, and you go as the daughter player, wow, I didn't see that coming, that was really painful for me. How do you then engineer that so that and then that's where the tactical nuances come in the game. Then it's right, so that was difficult for me to deal with as a daughters player. So how do I then make sure that I only stack those up? And it's just like a domino effect. And you go, right, this there, this there, this there, this happens.
So if hope
he hasn't got Marathi.
If he charges you with that unit, you're going to lose whatever it charges. So what you do is you try and use things like screens, the woods, ways to stop, even endless spells to stop him charging you. Geminids, try it out. Maybe hitting him with Geminids is enough. You don't know. That's why I like the Harvestboon, because it's got that fade away after you attack Durthu, and I think that's really fun. Like, for me, that's the ultimate. They charge you, they go last, you hit them, then you walk away and go, can't touch me now.
That sounds like the perfect game of war.
Awesome.
Just do that every turn.
But it's not every turn, but it's. And what I like about it is when your opponent's about to charge him, you can just remind him of what he's got, and then they might reconsider what they're doing, and they might go, maybe I won't do maybe I'll do something else.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't charge him. Maybe I'll keep him outside of free, and you're like, yes, that's the only one I want you to do.
Yeah. But you need to understand as well that if you do try this Durthu thing, the first time you try the stomp, you won't roll the 4+. Yeah, you won't roll the 4+. You know, it's the way it works. But yeah, it's.
But you can even use it aggressively. You could charge him, hit him, because you get to go first, and then walk away, so he can't touch you back.
Use it if you go for the double turn. You can use it to springboard inside and stuff. Charge that unit of snakes.
Yeah.
Use it to roll the 4+, springboard round it, roll the party,
kill the
get
hero,
the backfield,
the cauldron, or whatever's at the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Marathi, because you can't do it.
Yeah, because no one kills Marathi.
That's why you just spread all your models out with guns like all over the board, so you can't kill them all in one go, and you just shoot for every turn all the important stuff.
Yeah, it's like and just take wounds off. With dealing with Marathi, like I know that's a whole show on itself. It's just like no matter what, she takes the maximum amount of wounds she can in that turn every turn, and then ignore.
Yeah,
that is literally all you can do.
Yeah, and then just walk away. Just don't stay in combat with her if you don't have to.
Yeah, that's the thing. If she's in combat with you and she's gone in and she's not killed something and it's your turn, don't stay in combat with her. Retreat out of combat. Shoot her. Yeah, don't give her a free run. But we're going off on a tangent there.
Yeah,
standard.
But you might have an agreement that Marathi doesn't see the play unless you're playing a scenario or something. But like I say, try these lists out if you want. Let us know what you think. If you think you've got a really good Sylvaneth list, pop it below. Obviously, I might have missed something very obvious because I don't play Sylvaneth. So if I've made a mistake, I hold my hand up. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. But I say, play games with it, see how it gets on, and hopefully you can have some success with it. And I'll put the lists in the description so you can copy them out of there. And if you want to pick them up, then start collecting bundles. A really good way of going about it, and click through.
Yeah, you get your Durthu and some of the stuff and
what
whatnot in it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all again soon.